It is thin. There's not a lot there. Now, I want to assure you, if you've been with Wake Up Mid-Missouri for a while, you know that what happened the other day, it's again, progressives, Democrats, the current White House staff, they continue to wet the bed at night because Trump was president. He hasn't been in the office for over a year and a half. They are going to any lengths they can to go after this guy because they are seething. You know when you've ever been so angry, I think the phrase is you're beside yourself. You're just like, that's what they're like. But we're talking an entire political party is just, they can't stand it. But I want to tell you this, just so you understand. You've been with us for a while. You know that this is BS. If you're one of our newer listeners, you're one of our younger listeners trying to figure things out. If you are a regretful Biden voter, again, I will assure you this is not just a conservative talking point. And you tell your friends, by the way, hey, Stephanie and Branden told me something. They said, facts aren't conservative talking points. Facts are facts. Here's a fact. Alice Stewart. She is on CNN, and she goes to the bigger picture here, and I think this is encompassing the mood of a lot of Americans this morning, and a lot of us here in Missouri. Sure, the conservatives, Republicans, people who voted for Trump both times during the presidential election, the smart people know that was complete and utter crap that what happened. But on a bigger scale, even people who aren't fans of Trump, remember what happened? The FBI went into that dude's house with a safe cracker trying to find some stuff. You know it's political. It's because they wet the bed. This is CNN. Alice Stewart.
And on the heels of learning that this administration has virtually doubled the size of the IRS, people are concerned about them. If this can happen to the former president, then it could happen to me. Who is next?
So, and I think she's speaking for a lot of people, regardless of party affiliation, and that includes Democrats, because some Democrats that are starting to get wise to the thing going, okay, so we've allocated billions and billions of dollars of taxpayer money to hire 87,000 IRS agents to come after me. And I don't want to exaggerate that, but that's what does an IRS agent do? We don't use the phrase, I make my money coming after you. I double check the work. Yeah. And then this raid, this unprecedented raid by the FBI, CNN is exactly right. More and more people are like, what's my government doing here?
Well, and I think for me, the scary part is it's really a breakdown in our institutions. And we see when Democrats see that the institutions aren't working for them, they seek to change our fundamental institutions, like they want to pack the court. And here, there really is an issue because the warrant would have to go before the judge, and the judge is supposed to be an independent check on, if the DOJ has gotten, politically weaponized. The judge is supposed to say, hey, guys, maybe we should take a deep breath. Now, the warrant was signed off on the judge. The Daily Wire is reporting apparently the judge had some woke posts on his Facebook. And, we kind of knew that. That's, people are going to look into the judge that signed off on the warrant. But really, that's what's scary is that these institutions, it feels like the institutions themselves are becoming political and weaponized. And the checks and balances that our founders and that, people set up to make sure stuff like this doesn't happen is breaking down. And that's what's scary to me because, it was Trump this time. It could be who knows who's next.
Here, I imagine, is the internal conflict this morning for Missourians that despise Trump, but yet are listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, or folks that despise Trump here in Mid-Missouri that just, anything against Trump is proper and right. There's got to be an internal moral conflict with people like that this morning going, well, I hate Trump. But what the government has been doing with their power and going after folks because the current administration doesn't like them, and with the government using a whole lot of my taxpayer dollars to hire 87,000 more IRS agents. I imagine there's a lot of regretful Biden voters this morning, or a lot of Biden voters that aren't regretful, that are having that internal, because we know the difference between right and wrong. We don't always choose right and wrong, but we know the difference between right and wrong, and that is our moral dilemma sometimes. Okay, I know this is wrong, but I'm going to do it anyway. And afterwards, you're kind of like, you have that feeling about yourself like, man, I wished I wouldn't have done it. And I imagine that is a real internal struggle for Biden supporters this morning.
Well, even Democrats are coming out. We saw like Cuomo came out and was like, this was wrong. They need to immediately explain themselves. So you could be in two different camps. You could be of people who believe something really, you could be in the January 6th camp and be all about the committee and everything else. And I think that's one thing Cuomo said was, hey, this, if it does have to do with January 6th, it delegitimizes the work of the committee. Now, you can believe that the work of the committee is already a little bit delegitimate.
They've hired an executive television producer. Live coming up next Tuesday, you won't believe what Liz Cheney has to say about the events of January the 6th.
But I do think you have one camp of Democrats who, have concerns about what went down this week. You also have, I think, folks who are trying to get elected coming up and thinking, what on earth just happened? Because I think, if anything, this backfires. I think it fires up Trump people. We've seen Republicans rally around Trump from even from the left saying this was terrible. And so, I think Trump voters, to the extent they were, a little bit sleepy, they did, our voter turnout this last election was awful. I think people are fired up about this, and it's going to drive Republican voters to the polls.
You are right to be fired up about this. And if you're one of our new listeners that is a regretful Biden voter, you regret that you voted for Biden, as have millions of Americans nationwide. The guy in charge has an approval rating. He has a disapproval rating of almost 60%. 60% of America. If we have a population 330 million, whatever the math is, that's a lot of people. That is more than half of this country does not like what is happening because of Joe Biden. That is well over half of the country. And I think the big danger there is that speaks to the mood. It really does. I believe that. It speaks to the mood of a lot of people. And when you have 60% of America that agrees on something, 60%, we talk about unity. Hey, we're unified in our dislike for the president. Here's Biden yesterday following the raid in Florida.
And securing the future from people who will look back first century.
Oh, God. Well, he's fine. Let's put him back on. Either that or he hit the pipe, hit some heavy ganja before he came out and spoke. And he's still, that's harsh, bro. That's harsh. Missouri, yesterday, big day, Secretary of State's office saying, hey, listen, this, I call it the legal weed initiative. I am wrong. It's recreational marijuana, because I get that legal weed. We don't want to call it weed anymore, rather, because weed is that's one of those things that still gives it kind of that negative connotation. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft talking to our news partners at ABC 17.
Recreational use of marijuana under Missouri law did receive enough signatures under the Missouri Constitution, so it will go to the ballot for the people to vote on it in November.
And there are some other things. By the way, Alan Zagier, he's a spokesperson for Legal Missouri 2022. Make sure you join us at 7:10 and maybe let your friends know, even friends who typically don't listen to Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle. Let them know this. Alan Zagier guy is going to be talking about this coming up 7:10 this morning here on 93.9 The Eagle. You know, we already legalized medical marijuana. It's been, almost 4 years ago. And this, so you had to go out, you had to get signatures, bunch of signatures, and you had to get an X number of signatures from at least six out of our 8 congressional districts. Here's something interesting about the 4th congressional district, which is us. It's moved around a little bit recently, but basically it's our area, 3rd and 4th congressional districts. That's where we live, man. 4th district, not enough signatures to put it forward. It still went forward, but really the least amount of valid signatures across the state, like 6,000, not quite 7,000 people that were valid signatures signed on to this thing. But here's something else that's interesting, and looking through the numbers this morning through the Secretary of State's office. So, maybe you've been approached sometime. I don't know, you're in, let's say you're at the feed store in Holt Summit or whatever, and somebody comes up and says, hey, we're working on this thing. Would you sign this initiative ballot? And usually, I don't know if it always happens, but you should be told you have to be a registered voter to sign this if we actually want this to go forward. And a lot of folks, I don't know if that always happens. I don't know if that is always the setup. But you sign it, and then the Secretary of State's office, they do all of this work. One of the important things that they do, they go through and verify, okay, so you have 88,587 signatures. For example, let's take the 1st Congressional District in Missouri. That's the St. Louis area. That's where that hardcore Cori Bush represents. They got almost 90,000 signatures, almost 90,000. But here's the interesting thing. 57,000 of those signatures did not qualify. In other words, they got signatures from 57,000 people in the 1st Congressional District that are not even registered to vote. I thought that was stunning. And this initiative, by the way, this does some other things. It's not just saying, hey, man, I can go out and get some edibles on a Friday night. Me and my spouse want to chill, take it easy after a hard, long week of paying $4 a gallon for gasoline and paying $4 for a can of Progressive soup. And the kids got a babysitter tonight. We're going to chow down on some edibles tonight, maybe some gummies. It does more than that. There are some other important aspects to that. We're covering that 7:10 this morning. Alan Zagier, spokesperson for Legal Missouri 2022, here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle. We're just minutes away from the daily D.C. rundown. What you cooking up this morning for, Steph?
Well, it was a mixed bag in Trump-endorsed races yesterday. We'll have a rundown of that.
It's kind of like Trump v. Pence, Pence v. Trump. Daily D.C. rundown, 5
This is the show people are talking about. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
They've been left behind by the Democratic Party that just wants to focus on the social issues. From my first day in office to my very last day as governor, jobs and the economy are going to be my number one priority.
So that is Tim Michaels, but kind of the focus, tell me if I'm wrong, Steph, here of the daily D.C. rundown. It's almost the focus is Trump v. Pence.
And it has been for a while.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is that I think every headline in national news is about Trump, is about Trump's legal dealings, is about the raid, is about these endorsements. And, you know, like Trump has to just be sitting back thinking, still winning. They're still talking to me. I might have lost the talking about me. I might have lost the election, but I'm still in every headline.
He's doing his Charlie Sheen impersonation. Winning.
Exactly. So Tim Michaels, a wealthy businessman, he was endorsed by Trump, won over Rebecca Clayfish. Clayfish was endorsed, I think, by Scott Walker and by Pence. So that's a big win for Trump in Wisconsin. That's the gubernatorial race. It wasn't across the board for Trump last night, though. There is let's see, Robin Vos, the longest serving speaker in the state's history, had some not nice things to say about Trump, and Trump had some not nice things to say about him. So he was kind of targeted and criticized by Trump, still eked out a victory there. So, and he kind of spouted off and said, you don't have to be a lapdog to whatever Donald Trump says, but certainly that's helped a lot of people in the primaries going forward.
If you would like to win, maybe you should be a lapdog to Donald Trump.
So I'm sure Trump didn't appreciate that. I'm sure he'll have something to say on the Truth Social today about that comment.
Wow, winning.
Exactly. Also, another winner last night, which some people are surprised about, is Representative Ilhan Omar of the Squad. She was challenged by a more centrist candidate, and people thought she might be in trouble. Of course, she's like Cori Bush is big on defund the police, you know, just way out there. And the crazy people elected her. Brandon shakes his head.
She wants to defund the police, but she spends hundreds of thousands of dollars for her own security. Defund the police for everybody but me.
Also, President Trump will be questioned under oath on Wednesday, and that's according to Trump himself on Truth Social. If you recall, they had the New York Attorney General's doing this investigation about him. The allegations are relating to him misstating some assets related to his companies. So he did say on Truth Social that he's going to be questioned under oath about that. So he's got a lot of different, and there was another case, I think, decided yesterday, potentially, that they could look at his tax returns. Of course, that's going to be appealed. But he's facing the full brunt. And like I said earlier this week, I've seen a lot of criticism, you know, even about the Inflation Reduction Act, saying, hey, if Trump wouldn't have, you know, messed around in Georgia, we would have, you know, and I think all of this hate is how afraid people are that Trump's going to run in 2024. And we're just seeing it across the board from a legal perspective, from a political perspective, you know, even back to there was an article comparing DeSantis and Trump on coronavirus. And I think people are starting to see he's serious. In the CPAC poll, he runs away with the with support. And I think everything that's happening is just increasing support for him right now.
And you know who really loves this besides Trump? MSNBC and CNN, good, bad, or indifferent, regardless of how they cover him. And also Sean Hannity, who's here each weekday, 2 o'clock on 93.9 The Eagle, he called it. He said these cable news outlets, they are going to miss Trump. They're loving what's happening now, the raid, and now he's going to be in court today, and more talk that he is going to make a run for 2024. They are excited. We're just days away from the start of schools here in mid-Missouri, whether we're talking Cole County schools, whether we're talking Boone County schools, some things that are shaking that as a parent you might want to know. We're covering that 5 minutes from now on 93.9 The Eagle.
News. I'm Chris Foster. Donald Trump is deposed under oath today for an investigation of his businesses in New York State. A day after the raid on Trump's home in Florida, Pennsylvania House Republican Scott Perry says the FBI took his phone.
Perry has been the focus of a congressional probe of former President Trump's actions on the day of the January 6, 2021 assault on the U.S. Capitol, with a former Justice Department official saying Perry had a, quote, important role in Donald Trump's failed attempts to overturn the 2020 election.
Fox's Sean Langell. New numbers on inflation come out this morning.
The Consumer Price Index is expected to have risen for the July report to 8.7% year over year. That's a bit less than what we saw in June, and some economists say that small fraction could mean the current record high inflation rate we've been seeing may have finally peaked.
Fox's Jill Nato. The average gas price is down to $4.01 a gallon, according to AAA. That's $1 less than the peak in June. America's listening to Fox News.
Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert. It's what happens when you let emotionally unbalanced people play in a room full of microphones. 93.9 The Eagle.
Just not sure that this is the best place for our children to be safe and educated. I think that We should be focusing on our children's math scores, geometry, history, literature, writing in cursive, and not their gender.
That's a parent of a child in the Blair Oaks School District. The board meeting last night to discuss the district's transgender student policy. Board members said, we'll discuss and approve at another time. Kind of what Columbia Public School District did the other day regarding, in effect, what I call it tamping down on public comments in meetings. But their transgender policy, more and more parents, regardless of political affiliation, are going, you know what? Yeah, number one, I want my little girl. How many dudes are on this girls' softball team that are in the World Series right now? Does anybody know how the girls' softball team did yesterday? They were playing, and they were on ESPN. How cool is that?
They lost.
Oh,
3-1.
So, in that tournament style they're doing there, is it one and you're out, or is it two and done? Does anybody know? And I don't mean to catch you off guard.
They play again. I'm just not sure when.
All right. So let's root for them. How many dudes are on that team, I wonder? Yeah, because it wouldn't go over very well. And that's what schools and parents, regardless of political affiliation, are dealing with. Blair Oaks, they covered this regarding the bathrooms, and you can identify by whatever gender you think you are as a child. And they say, well, we're not going to hammer it out tonight. We'll just kick the can down the road, and we'll cover it at another point in time. This has got to be frustrating for parents, because here's the battle. It is a disingenuous argument to say, well, you just got to let kids. No, that is disingenuous and wrong, in my opinion. You don't want kids mixing in the bathrooms. I don't know how you'd feel about your little daughter and a dude coming into the bathroom. And we see some of the instances of where, these girls, the high-profile case where a dude twice raped some girls in bathrooms because that school allowed dudes to go into a girl's bathroom because they could identify as a chick, and without any penalty walk into a girl's bathroom. And sure, it doesn't happen all the time, but when you are a parent or a grandparent, you don't even want to think about that possibility. And we've seen it's beyond a possibility. These things have happened. And then when it comes to fairness in sports, listen, somebody called into the Randy Tobler show the other day. He's got a great show, weekday afternoons, 4 to 6 here on 93.9 The Eagle. And they said, well, instead of doing male and female sports, why don't we do, if you have this chromosome, you play in this sport. And if you have this chromosome, play in this sport. Yeah, makes it simpler. I'm sure we'd still get the same results. By the way, we're glad you're back, Steph.
Thanks.
Yesterday, and Hannah can get my back on this, I complimented the Columbia Public School District yesterday.
You did?
What?
I did. And it wasn't a backhanded compliment. It wasn't facetious. It was genuine. They're working to improve the website in the Columbia Public School District.
Oh, that's great, because it has a lot of room for improvement.
It really does. You can imagine. In my opinion here, it's intentional. They don't want parents to find readily access some information. And it first came to my attention a couple of years ago. I had a friend who ran for the school board unsuccessfully, and he says, that's one of the things I want to do is try to straighten this up. Somebody has taken his words from his campaign a couple of years ago, and they're trying to straighten it up. Now, one of two things here, because I'm trying. First day of school in Columbia is coming up sometime in August. I can find the calendars for the 2022-2023 school year, but I still can't see what the first day of school is. So, and that may not be the website. That may be.
There's so many different colors because the teachers go back. So I know Southern Boone, I was just on there. It looks the same. So there's a whole week highlighted before because all the teachers, I think, are back. But Southern Boone, I think we don't go back till the 6th. We're late starters. We always go back after Labor Day. It's actually quite wonderful.
I love that idea because I've never understood the idea, and it depends. So I used to go to inner city schools in St. Louis public school district for years, and then I was in more of a rural district in southeast Missouri State. And in some school districts I've been in, you go back to school at the end of August. You go back like on a Thursday and Friday, and then you have another 3-day weekend for Labor Day, and then you're back in school, which didn't make any sense to me. And then I was in some school districts, you go back after Labor Day.
Right at the top of the calendar, it says first day of classes, August 23rd.
It's too small for him to see.
Are we looking? Yeah, because I'm not seeing that again. Very likely user error. I'm looking at a stack of calendars here, and I see colors and box and greens and blues. And
it's in text at the top, right under the Columbia Public Schools logo.
Do you see it, Steph?
Yeah.
Where?
keep going down to the right. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at, but on the first day of, it's too small, first day of school in August. So it's on there. It's just not, it's maybe getting easier, but not easier for a 51-year-old dude who wears reading glasses.
No, Southern Boone, the late start is so nice because the 2 weeks are like bonus summer for us. Everyone else is in school mode and they're trying, we got the rodeo parade, we got all sorts of fun stuff happening in late August. And like last year I took the kids, I think we went down to Big Surf and, no one was there because everyone else was back in school. So I love the late start.
Brian McGraw, he is the superintendent of the Jefferson City School District. And they did something I love that they did this year. Yesterday, they kind of welcomed a whole bunch of new teachers. And I think the Jefferson City JCs were there. So a whole bunch of folks welcoming a whole bunch of new teachers into the school district.
Nationwide, you see teacher shortages, so it's a challenge to hire, recruit, and retain so many staff. And obviously, we want to have the best and brightest here in JC schools, so it's always a little bit more difficult to find the right candidate. So we continue to pursue great teachers for our kids.
That is a challenge, and I can imagine what it's like for people that actually work in the school district, because it gets to, and it's not just teachers here in mid-Missouri, by the way. We know law enforcement. We know the challenges being faced by local law enforcement agencies because of what happened. National news outlets, they get really big on these stories when somebody gets shot and the victim happens to be black and the officer is white. Listen, an officer has never shot these dudes because they are black. They were in the midst of breaking the law. They used to go, there's a black dude, gonna shoot him. But that's what national news outlets would have you believe. And because of all of this misdirected hate towards people in law enforcement, we get where people saying, I don't even want to be a cop anymore. Defund the police and all this, and having people attack me and having people throw eggs. And I just don't want it anymore, which breaks my heart, because I think whether you're a teacher in law enforcement, you have a servant's heart. I mean, yeah, you get paid, but still, you want to do something to help.
Yeah, and I mean, we know teachers aren't the highest paid profession, and so we talked, earlier this week about the different kinds of things that companies are doing to entice people to come work there, and a lot of it has to do with workplace culture. And so I think having an event like that, I think, my sister's a teacher. I know a lot of teachers. So I think, feeling like, you and your coworkers are pulling in the same direction, being on the same page, feeling like you're supported by the administration and by, local parents is really important, to attract and keep teachers. And it is about, you said law enforcement getting so much hate from the media. It is more about feeling supported, not only from the folks within your institution, but from your community. And I think as a community, we share our criticism of Columbia Public Schools, but in the same way we criticize Joe Biden, we want America to do well. We want the school system to do well. The reason why I think parents are keeping a closer eye on the school district is because we want it to perform as well as we know it can for our kids. And so, you can be critical and still hope for the best. And I think, and still find ways to support your teachers because they need our support.
And with anything, as the superintendent there, Mr. McGraw was saying, we want to get the very best teachers here. With any profession, whether it's law enforcement or teaching or even the medical profession or media, whatever the profession is, there are some people that's in it for the paycheck or they're not as good as others. Same thing happens with teaching. You get some people, I just want to be a teacher. And those people that didn't want to teach weren't really interested in the kids. As a kid in school, those were my favorite teachers because that's the teacher that would roll in every day. They would roll in the movie projector and, hey, kids, we're going to watch a movie again. Like, yes.
No.
Wasn't the right thing, but as a kid who wasn't interested in school, really, that was my favorite kind of teacher. Or a teacher would say, hey, listen, you're probably busy from the one other class that you've been into today. I'm going to make this a study hall today. Right on. Not a very good teacher, but as an eighth grader, that was the kind of teacher I loved.
Well, and I think sometimes, people from outside of the traditional paths make the best, situation in that path. And so I guess it makes me think of, and my Southern Boone friends will know, Mr. Naughton. He had written a lot down in Southern Boone. He had a column every month, and he was subbing a lot. And for a half a year, I think he filled in as the music teacher. And he wasn't classically trained, I don't think, as a music teacher, but played instruments and shared a love for music. And so he kind of went through like a history. And so for a whole month, my kids were saying, hey, Alexa, play Louis Armstrong. Hey, Alexa, play jazz. And you could see the passion for that he had for music being infused into the kids. And it was that passion that he shared, that came through in his teaching. And so I think for a lot of people, and you can say what you want about school reform and all of that. One of my criticisms of elementary school is you can't possibly be passionate about all the subjects. You just can't. Well, you're laughing.
Yeah,
but if you're a math person, you probably don't love English, right? But our school system is designed in a way that if you're an elementary school teacher, guess what? You have to teach all the subjects. You can't love English and like literature and love science. That's just like two different people. So where my sister teaches, for example, at charter schools, even in elementary, they specialize in a subject that they're passionate about. So that way it comes through in their teaching. And that's one reason why I think we should have more school choice.
So if I were a teacher, we'd be all over history, man. I'd give an hour-and-a-half course in history, and then when it came time for math, I would do what I learned from one of my teachers. All right, we're just going to do study hall here. You can do whatever you want.
Well, and my sister will agree with this. Math wasn't her thing. She struggled with math from the time she was in school through the time she had to learn how to teach other people how to teach math. And when she was a teacher in Missouri, because there were no other options, she was teaching kids math. And I'm like, you should not be teaching anyone math. Now where she teaches, she gets to teach literature and writing and reading all day, which she's excellent at, right? So anyway.
874-9390. David, welcome into the show. David's calling from Perry, Missouri this morning. What's up, bud?
Good morning, man. I'll tell you what, have our kids go to school, and we expect the best, for our kids to learn something. They just need to learn the three things, read, write, and arithmetic. They don't need grooming, indoctrination, and pedophilia in our schools. And that's a simple thing. It's not hard to do.
I hear you. And to your point, Nathan says, you know what we could do? We can use a line from the progressives when it comes to letting anybody use whatever restroom they want, especially in schools. Listen, girls use the girls' restrooms, boys use the boys' restrooms, and here's the line that you steal from the progressives. If it prevents one person from suffering, then that should be the rule. Nathan, we appreciate you hitting us up via text. Coming up, in case you haven't heard, legalized marijuana, it's going to be on the ballot in November. But at the urging of Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, he says there's some other things you really need to read all of the language in this. It does some other
Opinions on social issues? We throw those around too. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
We have this language up there so they can actually read, not just listening to a radio commercial for or against, or a TV commercial for or against, or a flyer.
Jay Ashcroft, are you criticizing radio there about our Secretary of State? Huh? He was talking to our news partners at ABC 17, talking about this initiative for legalized recreational cannabis. It's not legal weed. It's not legal smoke. That's what I keep calling it. And there are some other things to this. As a matter of fact, I hope you'll stay with us. Alan Zagier, spokesperson for Legal Missouri 2022. He is here at 710. There are other important aspects to this. And you're going to be voting on this coming up in November. This is happening during the midterms. There's some other key pieces of things that we are going to be voting on there, so you want to stick around for that. Then 7:35, Michael Bekesha with Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch, they filed a motion. They want to unseal this FBI warrant in this Trump raid yesterday, or a Trump raid that went down earlier this week, because there's a lot of folks, and just so you know, it's not a conservative talking point. It's just not Trump supporters. It's just not Republicans. It's Republicans who don't like Trump, and it's some of the few smart Democrats that are going, this is kind of dangerous to utilize a legal enforcement tactic like the FBI for something like this.
Well, and I'm excited to talk to Michael because I've known him for a long time. And for a while when I introduced him, I'm like, this is my friend Michael. He's the Hillary emails guy. He spent years in court trying to get a hold of Hillary's emails. And so you've seen on the socials this week, a lot of people are saying, why was Hillary never raided? It seems like she had classified documents, or at least put them in, unsafe spaces. And so he was intimately involved in all of that Hillary stuff. So I think he'll have some really interesting insights in comparing the two situations and maybe why Trump got raided and she didn't. And we can ask him, hey, whenever they cracked Trump's safe, is it true that they found Hillary's Russian emails in that safe? He is here at 7:35. And here's the other effect that we see unfolding this morning, even in Missouri, apparently. And Trump, he's already teased a couple of times about a 2024 run. But apparently, according to somebody that used to be within his administration, he was a senior advisor. His name is Jason Miller. He was saying, yeah, Trump was at about maybe 60, 75. He was going to run. He says that's way up there now. So that's one of the things that's happening as a result of this. According to him, is that, yeah, Trump might really be invigorated to run. Days away from the start of school. A lot of schools here in mid-Missouri. By the way, Stephanie Bell, welcome back. Thanks.
Hannah, the producer, I'm glad you're still here. Do you feel the same way?
It's been one of those days, man.
One of those days. We'll feel you. We'll let you get back to, I should say we feel you, not we will feel you. We feel you. I hear what you're saying. My name is Branden Rathert. Chuck, reaching out, 874-9390. Hello, Chuck. What can we do for you, man?
I just want to say, when I was in school, minus college, grade school, and junior high, et cetera, I hated history, but I still had to learn it. I had to sit through the classes, and I had to hear it. And I thought to myself, I'll never really need to know anything about history. And let me tell you, boy, I'm sure glad that I did, because whether I tried to remember it or not, everything that's unfolding today can be looked back upon in history, and I can see all the red flags. But today's generation, I don't think they're getting that. I think it's just one way that they're keeping the younger generation blind to history so that they can just get away with whatever they want to all over again.
Chuck?
That's just my 10 cents worth.
That is one of the most powerful things I've heard in the past 56 minutes. No, seriously, that is powerful because what's the phrase? This is not a trite phrase. Learn your history, otherwise we are doomed to repeat it. We appreciate you, man, but you're right. You see the history and the history of the United States of America and the Constitution and what we stand for as a country and what that stuff means. And I don't know how much history is or isn't taught. I know there's a lot of focus in schools. Well, you can go to this taxpayer-funded closet and pick out whatever. If you feel like a girl today, you can wear that. I know we devote a lot of attention in the classrooms into that. And the history, why we are here as a country, what that means to be here and now. How did we get here as a country? Chuck, I'm going to nominate you for Winner of the Week. We do that every Friday, 8:35, if somebody will just remind me. so I don't.
I got you.
All right. Thank you. Coming up, 7:10 legal weed.
He'll be questioned under oath. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Former President Trump will today be deposed in New York.
Part of the New York Attorney General's long-running civil investigation into his real estate dealings. The Trump Organization is accused of misstating the value of assets like golf courses and skyscrapers, as well as misleading lenders and tax officials.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. Former President Trump wrote online early this morning, it's a continuation of the greatest witch hunt in U.S. history on the heels of the FBI raid at his Mar-a-Lago, Florida residence. Fox's Griff Jenkins says
his attorneys were reportedly not allowed to be present during the raid. Agents seizing some 12 boxes of materials, including notes from North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, a letter from Barack Obama, a cocktail napkin, and a birthday dinner menu. Meanwhile, as Trump also faces new scrutiny over his personal taxes, a group of GOP House members huddled with him and say the former president is ready for a fight.
And if anything, it paves the way for Donald Trump to unify the party once again and run for president.
Congressman Jim Banks tells Fox the former president has now made up his mind about that 2024 run. And while Republicans demand answers from the Justice Department on the raid amid a probe into White House classified records, sources tell Fox there are growing threats online aimed at the FBI director and agents and the attorney general. Later this hour, we'll find out how bad inflation was last month. Economists predict consumer prices did not rise quite as much as June's 40-year high.
The key driver? Falling gas prices. But prices for staples like food and rent are still high, so no dramatic inflation dips are expected.
Fox's Jill Nato. The price of gas has dropped 57 days in a row, and a full $1 from June's record high. AAA's national average for regular now $4.01 per gallon, which is still 82 cents more than a year ago. America's listening to Fox News.
If you're living with aches and pains, especially if they're frequent and nagging and relentless, I want you to take a moment and think back to the last time you really felt good. Can you even remember what it felt like? Now, here's even a more important question. What would you give to go back to feeling like that again? Maybe it would just be nice to take a stroll with your loved one or play with your grandchildren. I've suffered from persistent, crippling pain almost all the time for about 5 years. When I started taking Relief Factor, I took it because my wife made me start taking it. I didn't think it would work for me. Yet here I am today, virtually pain-free, doing the things I love to do, all thanks to my wonderful wife and Relief Factor. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Are you part of that 70% that can get your life back? Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be to order the 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Find out more about this offer. Feel the difference. relieffactor.com.
And furthermore, Susan, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to learn that all 4 of them habitually smoke marijuana cigarettes. Reefers.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain. Innocently they dance. Innocent of a new and deadly menace lurking behind closed doors. Marijuana, the burning weed with its roots in hell.
I spoke 2 joints at night.
All right, Missouri initiative petition going to be on the November ballot regarding legalized marijuana. And there's a whole lot more to it than just recreational marijuana. As a matter of fact, we expect shortly we're going to be joined by the folks from Legal Missouri 2022. There's some other important things that are happening here. And this is what I am a big fan of this. And I'll tell you why. Several years, it's been 10 years ago, I was in Florida, and my kid, who was, I don't know, he was 18 years old, something like that, and he gets in trouble. He graduated. What's one of those big things when you graduate and they put a medal, comma some laud or something like that? I don't know exactly what the thing is.
Yeah, or summa.
Summa. He gets some kind of honors, and we're at his graduation, and it's just a remarkable event because you've got his biological father there, his adoptive father is there, and his stepfather is there. And we've got family from all across the country coming to help him celebrate his straight A's and all these accolades that he gets. That night, he's busted with weed. Ended up having to fly back to Idaho just days later to help him out and show up in court with him. And it was weed, and I was not okay with it. But what shocked me is I remember going into that courthouse in Twin Falls, the county seat for Twin Falls County, Idaho. And I remember going in there, and this courtroom is packed, standing room only. You would have thought you were at a Cardinals-Yankees game. I mean, it was standing room only. And all of these kids, I say kids, they were 18, 19, 20 years old. All of these kids, they were there for, it was charges related to marijuana. And I remember thinking at the time, of course, it was going to benefit me a little bit. Is now it's my kid. Now it gets in my way. For the most part, I don't care. I don't smoke weed. Doesn't matter. I don't care. But now, as a lot of us are with a lot of things, now it affects me. Now all of a sudden, I have an interest in stuff. I have an interest in what's happening here. And it was at that time, I guess, 10, 11, 12 years ago, in Twin Falls, Idaho, in a courtroom, that I thought, you know what? We really got to do something different. Well, in the past 10 to 12 years, we have seen across the country various states do things differently as it relates to marijuana, and we're getting one step close. Well, we came one step closer almost 4 years ago with recreational marijuana.
Yeah, there were actually 3 proposals on the ballot, differing versions, and Missouri voters overwhelmingly approved one of them.
And now we're getting closer to another one. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft telling us yesterday, hey, we've got enough qualified signatures to put this referendum to the voters of Missouri. I want to bring in Alan Zagier. He is the spokesperson for Legal Missouri 2022. Alan, I appreciate you being here, but first I want to start with this. This is how we open the show.
And furthermore, Susan, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised to learn that all 4 of them habitually smoke marijuana cigarettes. Reefers.
These high school boys and girls are having a hop at the local soda fountain.
So I remember that absolutely. I'm a 51-year-old dude, and when we were in school, the teacher would roll out the projector, and they'd put up on the movie screen in the 3rd grade the movie Reefer Madness, which today is one of the greatest comedies out there. Do you think it's taken so long to change minds about the benefits of cannabis, about THC, about marijuana? I go back to, because it's a bunch of old white guys like me that grew up on the movie Reefer Madness. Do you think that's one of the delays in the general acceptance of marijuana?
Sure, to some extent. Good morning, and thanks for having me. Welcome to your listeners. I would push back a little and say compress that time frame a bit and look at the last 5 or 10 years and just look at the progress we've made legally, socially, culturally, and the acceptance that has emerged really in recent times, as opposed to that clip you played, which I think now we all can agree is archaic, and it may as well be something from the silent movie area. That's probably how far afield it is from our current reality.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we cover this too. Our guest, Alan Zagier, Legal Missouri 2022. This is going to be on the ballot in November. There's some other things here doing. Talk about the legal aspects of what this is going to do for people that have been in trouble with weed in the past.
Well, a key plank of our initiative petition is that it will automatically expunge past criminal records for most nonviolent marijuana offenses. That's excluding selling to minors and driving while under the influence. But the real world impact of that is going to be substantial, because even today, tens of thousands of Missourians each year are getting arrested on low-level drug charges. And if and when those charges stick, we're talking about people who have problems for years with housing, employment, and really a stain that continues to linger even if they've served their time or paid their fine or had the charges dropped. So the unique clause in our particular initiative is that there have been a handful of states that have also, about a half dozen or so, that have also implemented automatic expungement as part of adult use marijuana legalization. But Missouri, if and when we do pass this initiative, will be the first where that step will have been voter initiated. And I want to make clear that automatic expungement, as opposed to the current state expungement, which we have on the books now, which is extremely ineffective and really exists on paper only. And that's where individuals have to petition the court. So it involves time and expense. And what we're saying is the onus should be on the state to make that happen. And additionally, we're also really excited about the benefits to the bottom line. The public tax dollars that are going to be rolling in from adult use sales are considerable. We're talking about tens of millions of dollars annually that are going to go to sorely needed public services, including veterans care and treatment, drug abuse treatment, and the state's public defender system. And that's going to be thanks to a 6% retail sales tax that, again, conservatively is going to generate $50 to $70 million in tax revenue in the first year alone, and likely only go up from there.
With medical marijuana, I think we brought in, anywhere $9 to $13 million for the Missouri Veterans Coalition. That's just with medicinal marijuana. And I want to clarify here, too, because that's the other thing with, it gets off my record, expungement, whatever it is. A lot of times, then somebody's got to go up and they got to put up a bunch of cash, and then they've got to hire an attorney, and you got to go through the process. But you're saying here that this is automatic if the voters agree to pass this.
That's right.
All right. I think that's a big help. The other thing I think is interesting with the work that you have done with legal spokesperson for Legal Missouri 22. This is Alan Zagier hanging out with us on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle. And maybe you know this if you've been involved with ballot petition initiatives in the past. So, people can go out and they can get all the signatures they want to try to get something on the ballot so that me and you can go in and vote on it. But you got to have a certain number of qualified signatures. And I don't know if you have any comments on this, but I'm looking at the numbers. I've been pouring through the numbers this morning regarding the number of signatures that came, for example, from the 1st Congressional District. Almost 90,000 signatures collected. 1st District, that's the area rep by the progressive Cori Bush, St. Louis area. They collected almost 90,000 signatures. Less than half of those were valid, like 57,000 of those signatures. 57,000. Not even qualified valid signatures. Maybe a little off topic here. How much of a challenge has something like that been for you in the past, or any kind of initiative petition, actually?
Sure. Well, we knew going in, and these sorts of campaigns know going in, that you always have to collect more signatures than the requirement. Hopefully you're going to be collecting at least double the required number. And in our case, that's what we did. We submitted more than 400,000, and I think around little less than 215,000 were deemed valid. And signatures can be rejected for a number of reasons. That doesn't necessarily mean that the person's not a registered voter. It could just mean that they put down the wrong address, or they registered to vote at their old place 6 months ago, or they wrote the petitioner gave them the petition for St. Louis County when they live in St. Louis City. So I wouldn't necessarily read too much into that. What I would say is that across the board, we wouldn't have this petition qualify for the initiative, for the ballot, if we didn't have substantial statewide support. And as you pointed out, the barrier to qualifying for the ballot is a high one, a rigorous one, as it should be. And we did collect signatures meeting that threshold across the state. Obviously, a number of them were rejected, but I would say the operative issue is how many were accepted, and really, again, across the board in all corners of the state, not just St. Louis, Kansas City, and Columbia, but Joplin, St. Joseph, Hannibal, Camdenton, the Boot Heel, et cetera. And we feel that level of support that we saw just getting to this point really bodes well for us in November. We know that Missourians are ready to legalize and use marijuana, and we know that it's time.
2 congressional districts had an insufficient number of valid signatures, and one happens to be the 4th district, which encompasses 3rd and 4th district, encompasses our listening area. The other one was the 8th district, Cape Girardeau. Congressman Jason Smith down there. He's a Mizzou grad that comes on from time to time, but I also understand he didn't focus a whole lot of efforts because of the ruralness of that area. Hard to reach out and get to voters. Before we let you go, Mr. Zagier, anything else that you would like to add before we go?
Well, I just encourage everyone to take some time and learn about our initiative petition and the amendment. It's 39 pages, so there's a lot of details in there, and you can read the entire petition and learn more about the campaign, including ways to support us and follow us on social media at LegalMo22.com.
LegalMo22.com. Spokesperson for LegalMo2022.com. Alan Zagier. Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us on the show this morning, and we will look forward to having you again on prior to the election, November 8th this year, man. Thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Off the text, 874-9390. Steve says, I don't use drugs, don't use marijuana. Have an occasional drink. That being said, I have no problem with legalizing marijuana. Why not legalize all drugs? I don't know where I am with that. Gary Nolan, check out his show whenever he talks about this stuff. He says, and this can be a moral dilemma, I think, as we say. I like to use that phrase when I don't have my mind made up on something. I say, well, that's a moral dilemma. Give people the information, let them make their own choices. Hey, this can potentially be dangerous, or hey, this is good for you, or hey, you should drive this fast in a car on I-70. Give people the info, don't make their own decisions. But as Gary Nolan likes to say a lot, you're too stupid. Not you're too stupid. He does that as a joke. The government's, in effect, you're too stupid to make your own decisions. Why not legalize all drugs? It's a bad idea. I just don't like that. Now, back in the day, before I got sober, Steve, I would have been on board with you 100%. Coming up, we are going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah. What do you got for us today, Hannah?
There's been a zebra on the run for like the last week and a half, and we have an update on Marty.
Marty the zebra. Repair shop, they're in Columbia, they're in Boonville. They cover a wide swath of mid-Missouri, and I would recommend them because they're small local mechanics. I would recommend them because they get to know your car. It's the same few mechanics working on your car every time. I would recommend them because that's where I go. It's where I take my car. My car, almost as old as Hannah, is pushing 143,000 miles. And here's the thing. Not only does it run well, here's the bigger thing. Because, maybe you're in college, you kind of have that car that you're like, I don't know if it's going to start today. And you know that feeling every morning, getting into your car, turning the key, and maybe even do that little quiet prayer, like, please start today. I don't get that. with Gaps Automotive Repair Shop because they're always letting me know about the work that I need to do. And with 140,000 plus miles, they're saying, hey, and you might want to do this and you might want to do that. I take my car to Gaps Automotive Repair Shop. I would suggest you to, too. They're in Columbia and in Boonville.
Putting the fun in dysfunctional. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
And on the heels of learning that this administration has virtually doubled the size of the IRS, people are concerned about them. And if this can happen to the former president, then it could happen to me.
CNN, that is key there. That is CNN. Just so you know, this raid on Trump and Mar-a-Lago the other day isn't just conservatives or Trump backers. Even conservatives and Republicans that don't like Trump are going, this seems kind of abusive. Democrats, progressives, and CNN saying, You know what? There are concerns with something like this, so much so that we've invited somebody really cool to come on the show. They're going to be here at 7:35.
Yeah, Michael Bekesha with Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch is kind of like a watchdog from the right, and he was very involved in the Hillary email stuff right when we came out of law school, and now they've actually filed a motion to unseal this warrant so we can see what the heck they were looking for.
So he's not here just to, give an opinion on it. His organization, Judicial Watch, they are filing some stuff. They have filed a motion to unseal the FBI warrant. What can we uncover with him? That's coming up at 7:35. All right, now 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:27.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
Now, a little over a week ago, I told you the story of Marty the zebra.
Poor Marty the zebra.
Poor Marty. He was living in Miller County with his random owner who just happens to own some land and decided he wanted to buy a zebra, I guess. Maybe it's Joe Exotic's cousin.
Joe Exotic and the Tiger King.
But they were doing some construction around Marty's pen on this property, and Marty got spooked and got out.
Now, was he like sporting shades, smoking a Marlboro Red? Oh, I can make my break now. And he bolted. I wonder if it went down like that.
I don't think so, but maybe. Nothing's impossible. But they've been looking for this zebra on this 600-acre plot of land for like a week and a half. And they finally found him. They found him not on the 600-acre plot that they were looking at. They found him next door, basically.
Really?
So they've been looking in the wrong spot for this zebra the whole time.
I have so many questions. Like, what is that decision-making point where you're like, honey, I think I'm going to get a zebra. And then also, where do you get a zebra?
That definitely sounds like something that the husband didn't get approved with the wife. Just kind of showed up with a zebra. That's kind of how I envision it going.
And here's how you do something like that. When you want to get something that the wife isn't going to be happy about, you come home with a zebra and you say, hey, look, baby, look what I got for you. A zebra. It's for you.
And a big diamond ring.
And a big diamond ring might help that situation, too. I wonder if the zebra was out looking for Joe Camel. I know. And does anybody know, seriously, the answer to this question? Great question on Friday's show. If you're driving a car at the speed of light, you turn the headlights on, does anything happen? Is a zebra white with black stripes or
black with white stripes?
I don't know if there's like an honest-to-goodness answer to that question, but if you know it and you have time to take part in this nonsense, please do. 874-9390. The Trump raid Judicial Watch is here at 7:35.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. It was delayed when his ex-wife Ivana died. Today, former President Trump takes questions under oath for the New York State Attorney General's investigation of his businesses.
Trump in a Truth Social post saying this, seeing racist New York State Attorney General tomorrow for a continuation of the greatest witch hunt in U.S. history. My great company and myself are being attacked from all sides. Banana Republic.
Fox's Griff Jenkins. It was a primary Tuesday in 4 states.
In Minnesota, Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar squeaked by in her primary against centrist challenger Don Samuels. In Tuesday's Wisconsin GOP primary for Senate, incumbent Ron Johnson's won. He'll face Democratic Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes.
Fox's Jill Nato. 7 murder convictions are overturned in Chicago over allegations of misconduct by a former police detective. Those murders were between 1989 and 96. America's listening to Fox News.
Thanks for making Wake Up Mid-Missouri your favorite morning show. 93.9 The Eagle.
I think the before last night, I'd say it was maybe the 60-40, maybe 70-30 range. I think after last night, I think it's almost certain that President Trump runs again.
All right, that's Trump's former senior advisor, Jason Miller, following this raid. I'm telling you, this raid is blowing up to a really huge deal on so many levels. Matter of fact, Judicial Watch, they have filed a motion to unseal the FBI warrant. We're going to be joined here very shortly by Michael Bekesha with Judicial Watch, but want to sneak in a phone call real quick regarding Marty the Zebra. And Hannah, we have a gift for you this morning here on the show.
Oh, boy.
The dude who the zebra belongs to reached out to him this morning. He's going to come on at 8:10.
Nice.
Yeah. We're going to find out about Marty the Zebra. Before we do chat with Michael Bekesha, I want to chat with Steve real quick regarding zebras. What's up, Steve?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
It's a nice morning. I'm getting ready to go to the dentist.
Amen. Have fun there. What can we do for you?
Well, I just wanted to comment on the zebras, the color patterns.
Is a zebra white with black stripes or black with white stripes?
See, that's what makes the female different from the male. The male has the black with the white stripes. The female has the white with the black stripes.
All right. Well, I'll take your word. Right now, I'm going to take your word for it. Without a quick fact check, I will take your word for it. And Steve, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Let's bring in Judicial Watch to weigh in on the issue. Michael Bekesha, do you know zebras, are they white with black stripes or black with white stripes?
White with black stripes.
I'm going to go with what you have to say. Michael Bekesha, Judicial Watch, we know the extraordinary events that went down earlier this week at the residence of our former president, President Donald Trump, the other day, and the folks at Judicial Watch. I guess you guys are incredibly unhappy with this, and it sounds to me like it's not just it's a political thing. What are you guys doing, Michael?
Yeah, so what we decided was we went to go find a copy of the warrant and the affidavit that the FBI agent filled out to get the magistrate down in Florida to issue the warrant. And we realized it was all under seal. And judicial records are supposed to be available to the public. Anybody should be able to access them. So we filed a motion with the Southern District of Florida asking the court to unseal the search warrant and any underlying materials with it so the public can see exactly the reasons why and what the government was looking for when they raided not only a former president's home, but also a likely political opponent of the current president.
So when will we get an answer? I assume this is some sort of expedited process. What's next?
You know, what's next is hopefully the court gets back to us today and sets up some type of schedule so that the government can weigh in and we can continue arguing in court. Right now, we are not sure when that will happen because it's a sealed case. We don't have access to the docket, so we're not quite sure exactly when we'll be able to get into court. But we filed the motion shortly after 5 o'clock Eastern time last night.
So I was telling Branden I used to introduce you as my friend and as the Hillary emails guy because you spent a long time fighting in courts trying to get access to Hillary's emails and had some pretty big wins over there. Now, there's been a lot of comparisons drawn between Hillary's situation and this situation, and so my question for you is it really about classified documents? Because if it was, then why was she never raided? What do you think? I mean, in your heart of hearts, do you think this really is about that he took some documents that were classified from the White House?
So that's $1 million question of why they're doing it. I mean, if you look at what happened during the Hillary investigation, the FBI or the Justice Department asked Hillary to return records. She returned some records, but everybody knew that she still had some records and had classified information. Here we know a few months ago, Archives or Justice Department asked President Trump to return records. We know that he did. So it seems like the two cases were very similar. Never did the FBI raid Secretary Clinton's home, but they did here. So the question is why. We don't know the reason. We don't know if it's overclassified information. If it was, that probably doesn't really make sense. And if the argument is it's the Presidential Records Act, I actually sued almost 10 years ago at this point, Archives over Bill Clinton taking presidential records with him when he left office. He created these audio tapes of conducting business in the White House. And we asked for those records, and a federal judge here in Washington, D.C. said, the president, when he's in office, he can do whatever he wants with his records. And whatever records he takes, if he deems them personal records, there's nothing the federal government can do to get them back. And the judge seemed to even make fun of me when I suggested, well, the Justice Department could just write a letter and say, we want our government property back. And she kind of scoffed at that.
But certainly they didn't raid Bill Clinton's home after these audio tapes that he took with him.
No, they in the court said there's nothing the court could do. That because Bill Clinton decided their personal records and took them, that there was nothing the government could do to get them back. So, we're not sure exactly what's going on here, and that's why we want to see the search warrant. That's why we want to see the underlying affidavit. We want to see if there are actual justified legal reasons for conducting a raid of a former president and a future political opponent of the current president, or if this is all politics, whether it's abuse of power, all sorts of things it could be. And the public has a right to know, and so we believe the court should unseal these records as soon as possible.
Michael Bekesha is with Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch hopes to maybe learn some more on this today. They have filed a motion to unseal that FBI warrant. We heard earlier this morning former Trump's personal attorney. She says that she was there and said she asked to see some of the documents. And according to what she was saying, she's like, they didn't seem to be very forthcoming with that. The White House was asked, did you know this was coming? And I don't believe it, but I have my opinion on things. They said Joe Biden was unaware that this raid was going to take place. Well, Joe's probably unaware when he has to pee. He doesn't know. Do you, on a personal level, and if I'm asking you a question representing Judicial Watch, if I'm asking you a question out of line, please let me know. But does it seem reasonable, and I'm basing this on the work that you do in D.C., based on your knowledge of what you have done on cases of this high stakes over the year, does it seem reasonable to you with your knowledge that the White House or that Joe had no idea that this was happening?
I think Judicial Watch is undertaking a full investigation of what took place, and we hope to have that information to the public as soon as we can figure it out. But, my personal opinion is whether or not Joe knows isn't the right question. It's whether or not somebody at the White House knew. There's probably a lot of things that are kept from the President of the United States, but that doesn't mean his most senior aides don't know about it.
All right. I dig your answer. That's very tactful. Michael Bekesha, very good, man. Sounds like you've done this before. Michael Bekesha.
I've been around.
You've been around. Michael Bekesha with Judicial Watch. Anything else really important that you need to add to this that Stephanie and I have not asked you?
I don't think so. I think, this is an important issue. It's important for the public to know what happened. And, Judicial Watch, as we always do, is going to keep on fighting and see if we can get more information to the public. And if the public is interested to know what we're finding and what we're doing, follow us on Twitter and YouTube and at our website, judicialwatch.org.
Okay, one other real quick question. So the libs today and yesterday are saying, well, he could just release the affidavit himself. He's got a copy of it now. His lawyers do. What do you say to people who are making that argument?
It's possible that he has the search warrant itself, but that doesn't mean he has the underlying document. And so what the president may have is just a search warrant that says we have the right to search X, Y, and Z. Apparently, it was a safe in the former First Lady's closet, I've heard that they may have spent some time in, and whatever else, and it'll lay out what they're looking for. But it won't give the reasons underlying why the search warrant was issued. And so, the other thing is President Trump probably has lawyers that are advising him what to do and what not to do. And so I'm not surprised if he doesn't release it immediately, because the lawyers are probably telling him to hold on. But again, judicial records are supposed to be available to the public. And so the public has a right to this regardless of what President Trump and his lawyers decide needs to be done with the documents they have.
Judicial Watch hopes to learn more today. Judicial Watch has filed a motion to unseal the FBI warrant in that Trump raid. Michael Bekesha, we are incredibly appreciative of your time. We appreciate you hanging out with us here in mid-Missouri this morning.
Thanks for having me.
All right. And I love this, again, and I'll go back to, because I love what Dems are saying about Dems, how bad things are for the White House administration. But here's why this is important. So if you're a newer listener or you think your political ideations are kind of morphing since the tragic events of January the 20th, 2021, you're like, I don't like what's happening here in this country. Oh, man. This is why this is so important. It's not because, oh, my gosh, they went after Trump. It's so much more than that. And that's according to CNN's Alice Stewart.
And on the heels of learning that this administration has virtually doubled the size of the IRS, people are concerned about them. And if this can happen to the former president, then it could happen to me.
It's big stuff at play here.
It really is. And for me, the scarier part is it feels like a breakdown in institutions. And the Democrats, when they can't get their way, they, seek to kind of blow up the infrastructure and the institutions that are fundamental to kind of how our government works. And so when they don't get their way from the courts, they say, let's pack the courts. And here, there's supposed to be some checks and balances. If, the DOJ goes off the rails, then you go to a judge. The judge is supposed to kind of be this independent check to make sure that it's not just being weaponized or politicized. And here, I think Daily Wire has an article out about the judge's social media posts. And, you would think if this was politically motivated, it would be incumbent upon the judge to say, hey, let's take a deep breath here before we go raid, President Trump's home. Now, again, we don't know what was in the warrant, so maybe everything is free and clear. And I'm excited about the work that Judicial Watch is doing because I do think we deserve to know. But it feels like a breakdown in our institutions.
Super simple explanation. Anybody ever gossiped about you? Spread stuff about you that wasn't true? But everybody in the office, because somebody's out there saying stuff about you, and they're believing what that person is saying. And you have this false narrative out there, and people assume that everything they have heard some other person say about you, they think it's true. And you have no power to stop it. I kind of liken it to that. 874-9390. What's up, Timothy?
Well, I think it's this. It's purely political. They are scared to death that he's going to run again, which I hope he does. I hope he kicks their butts up between their shoulders. But listen to this, they are pulling out every stop they can because they are afraid of him. Yep. Because he let known all the evil that was happening there, and he's going to do it again, and they are scared to death, and they are totally illegal. The Dems and Limbs, or the libs, have no morals or ethics at all.
And hypocrites. And I point to the most recent example of progressive Democrats. Prime Trudeau in Canada wouldn't let people, some of the Kansas City Royal Star players, people like Nolan Arenado, who don't have their papers to prove that they've had, for example, the COVID vaccine. And a progressive like that, then they're hypocritical because then he's on a Scott Fawn, he's knee deep in Missouri politics, tweeted. Then he's out, Trudeau, he's out flying and going to places where he's supposed to be wearing a mask, but he doesn't because, kind of as Timothy was saying, that mindset, you have to have a certain amount of hypocrisy about you. Coming up about 5 minutes from now here on 93.9 The Eagle. Real quickly before we move on from this, because I want to kind of look at what Missouri lawmakers are saying about this, because this is a very, very dangerous thing. White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre being asked by Fox's Pete Ducey about this yesterday.
Is this administration weaponizing the Justice Department and the FBI against political opponents?
Are they weaponizing? What's the answer supposed to be? No. How did she answer that? That's coming up 5 minutes from now on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
This is the show people are talking about. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
Is this administration weaponizing the Justice Department and the FBI against political opponents?
Peter, the president believes in the rule of law.
Okay, when you're asked that question, are they weaponizing the law against the president? You're the person. You're the White House spokesperson. You're supposed to represent the White House. The easy answer to that question is
no.
No. And she doesn't say it. And she does go on to try to attempt to answer the question.
In the rule of law. The president believes in the independence of the Department of Justice.
That's a yes or no?
No, that is no. It's a yes or a no for you. I'm answering the question. You may not like it, but I'm answering the question, and I'm answering the question. And
Nope. Yeah. The question: are you weaponizing it? The answer is supposed to be no. We are not weaponizing it. So, by virtue of her tiptoeing around that tells me that yes, we are absolutely weaponizing this because we still wet the bed at night because this guy was president for 4 years. Otherwise, you would just answer the question and say no or say yes. By that answer, you're saying yes, and you look really bad doing it, but we appreciate the consistency.
Does she have you longing for Jen Psaki?
I don't know. Yeah. We had a conversation one night, Hannah and Stephanie and I. We were sitting around, and this was prior to the election of 2020. And we were sitting around one night, and girls are having a couple glasses of Chardonnay, and I'm drinking some cider tea. And we got to wondering, what would happen if Joe became president? On a personal level, we were frightened. And I'll tell you, from that night prior to the election 2020, when the three of us were hanging out, those fears it's all happened. And we don't ever say we told you so, because you don't do that with people that you love, and we love you. If you're a newer listener, though, and you're a regretful Biden voter, we're not going to say we told you so either. That's just kind of mean. But we told you so. But then going back to our conversation prior to the presidential election 2020, and me and Hannah and Stephanie were all hanging out. Like, what would happen if Joe does become president? And we talked about how these things are going to affect us. It's all come true. Higher prices. We did not think what would happen with gas prices would happen. Mine and Steph's, I remember from that night, one of our biggest concerns was the image of the United States of America on a worldwide stage. Immediately following the tragic events of January the 20th, 2021, we lost a lot of our credibility. We lost a lot of our toughness. That's why Russia invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, I mean, it's been terrible. I was disappointed when Obama was elected, but honestly, I kind of just went, this has been worse than I ever could have imagined.
So, to answer your question, do I miss Psaki or do I like Corinne Jean-Pierre? Professionally, for what we do here, I hate to say it, but man, they've both been a gold mine. I'm sorry. Atterbury Auction and Realty Company, AtterburySells.com. They have all kinds of great, auctions, whether it's property, whether it's stuff. For example, and a lot of this stuff is right here in mid-Missouri. There's a big old chunk of land, 10 acres, 3-bedroom ranch-style home. And this is in Harrisburg, okay? But there's a lot of cool things to the house, too. And you'll find other things when you go to AtterburySells.com. As a matter of fact, there's one right now. There's an auction. You can find all of this, AtterburySells.com, but like unique coins. Lawn equipment. And I think really the biggest thing, when you get a chance, just get on to AtterburySells.com. Even if you're, I don't do auctions. Never been to an auction in my life. Perfect. You don't have to go to an auction. You go to AtterburySells.com. And it's kind of like, hey, I didn't know I wanted one of those. It's like that. Check it out. AtterburySells.com.
and less. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Inflation surged again last month, but not as much as in June.
The Consumer Price Index for July eased slightly, but remains close to its highest annual rate in 4 decades, with an increase of 8.5% versus the expectation of 8.7% year over year.
Fox's Lillian Wu, one reason for a slight drop. The daily drop at the pump since June's record high. Gas now $1 less, but still 82 cents more than a year ago. Former President Trump will go under oath today
for a deposition with New York Attorney General Letitia James's lawyers, which he previewed in a True Social post, saying this: a continuation of the greatest witch hunt in U.S. history. My great company and myself are being attacked from all sides.
Fox's Griff Jenkins, the Attorney General's investigating allegations Trump real estate values were misstated and tax officials were misled. It comes after Monday's FBI raided the Trump Mar-a-Lago, Florida residence in the probe into classified White House records. Alina Haba, an attorney for the former president, tells Fox
they went in when he wasn't even there and then told his attorneys to leave.
And while Republican lawmakers demand the Justice Department give more details about the raid,
authorities are keeping close watch of social media posts, spotting a significant increase in threats aimed at FBI agents, FBI Director Christopher Wray, and Attorney General Merrick Garland. Sources tell Fox News the threats continue at a steady pace online.
Fox's Jared Halpern. 3 more buses arrived this morning in New York City, full of migrants who came to the U.S. illegally, sent from Texas by Republican Governor Greg Abbott, angering New York Mayor Eric Adams.
The mayor getting it from both sides, activists who want him to do more for these migrants, and obviously others who believe that him calling it a crisis with 4,000 asylum seekers here is a bit hypocritical, according to what the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, has said. They see 4,000 illegal migrants cross the border every single day in their communities.
Fox's Brian Yanis. America's listening to Fox News.
Life is about being active, whether it's about going on your daily tasks or exercising. You know you're well when you're regularly active. But what happens when being active actually hurts by the end of the day? This is the position I found myself in a number of years ago. Everything I wanted to do in my daily life, all of the activity it called for, was held captive to almost constant nagging pain. When I heard about Relief Factor, I was skeptical, but my wife said, give it a chance. Not long after I took it, I could feel the pain begin to melt away, and I've been taking it ever since. And I can tell you that Relief Factor has helped me get my life back. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be ordering a 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. Find out all about this offer and feel the difference.
And now award-winning local news coverage with Brian Houseworth on 93.9 The Eagle.
93.9 The Eagle News is brought to you in this 8 o'clock hour by the folks at First State Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. I'm Brian Houseworth. In this 8 o'clock hour, you'll be voting in November on whether or not Missourians should be allowed to use recreational marijuana in the Show Me State. Missouri Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft announcing an initiative petition has received enough signatures to place the issue on the November general election ballot. Republicans in the legislature have criticized earlier proposals to legalize marijuana for recreational purposes. In Missouri, medical marijuana is already legal in the state. Mid-Missourians who have filled out the surveys for what they would like to see along Columbia's I-70, I-70-63 interchange have been consistent about one feature. That's according to MoDOT's Brandy Baldwin.
And what I can say that we've seen in almost every one of those is we'd like to see a third lane. So that would be a big win if we could get additional funding for that third lane.
The council plans a rare Saturday morning budget work session to go over the budget. You'll have your first chance to testify about the proposed $506 million budget on Monday evening. That rare Saturday morning budget work session will start at 9 a.m. And again, the entire city council will be there. City of Columbia plans to repair some sidewalks in Mizzou's Greektown area. It's bordered by Providence, Kentucky Boulevard, Rollins, Tiger Avenue. Project scheduled to be done during the summer of 2023. Columbia's Public Works Department has scheduled an informal open house for this evening at 5:30. Staff will be on hand presenting design concepts. Engineering staff will be on hand. They'll be answering your questions as well. And you also learn details today. Interested parties meeting about the second phase of COU's new terminal project, $23 million project. Second phase includes some rental car counters, if you will, new ones, TSA offices as well. Interested parties meeting 4 o'clock. That will be at City Hall.
Just not sure that this is the best place for our children to be safe and educated. I think that we should be focusing on our children's math scores, geometry, history, literature, writing in cursive, and not their gender.
That's a parent of a student in the Blair Oaks schools at this meeting last night where they're talking about their transgender policy. Like, listen, if you're a dude, go to this bathroom and you play this sport. If you're a chick, you go to this bathroom and you go to that bathroom. Silly and disgusting. That's things they still have to talk about. And here's what's happened. They've kicked the can down the road. Said, well, we'll talk about this future reference, kind of like what the Columbia School District did with their meeting regarding how they're going to handle public comments in Columbia public school meetings. There, as a matter of fact, we had a conversation with Suzette Waters on the school board. You can hear that on the Wake Up Columbia podcast. And I want to mention this, though, before we do move forward. Listener Jamie. She sent us a meme. She says, and it's got a sign. It's got boy, girl, people in a wheelchair, transgender, multi-gender, whatever. Just please wash your hands when you get out of the bathroom. I love that. Welcome into the show. Stephanie Bell is back.
Good morning.
There's Mr. Brian Houseworth. You're back, too.
It is good to see you.
Hannah, the producer, still here.
Hello.
My name is Branden Rathert, still here, as long as they will have me. Great story. Hannah turned this on to me a couple of weeks ago. This has actually happened when I was out of town.
It did. So there is a local zebra. His name is Marty. And I'm sorry.
I know, right? We have Marty the zebra.
Marty the zebra, which is the zebra's name in Madagascar, the animated kids movie. I don't know if you'd made that connection or not, but that's why it's extra funny to me.
Okay.
And Marty had escaped his pen that was on a 600-acre plot of land. And his owner was having a difficult time finding him on 600 acres. They'd get kind of close to him, and then he'd escape again before they could catch him.
Oh, no. So the guy who did own Marty is joining us now. His name is Joe McDevitt, and he owns, the reason apparently he's got a zebra, he's got a company, Black and White Roofing. Joe, welcome into the show, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Thanks for having me.
So how did Marty the zebra get loose in the first place?
Well, I'm pretty new to owning animals, so I kind of got into this exotic thing just kind of on a whim. It's black and white. Everything we do, everything in our life's black and white, and I couldn't think of anything better than a zebra that we could get a hold of, and that's what happened.
Well, you could have gotten a black and white dog. You could have started there, Joe. Hey, and do me a favor real quick. Turn your radio down. So did you have to ask any other family members, business associates, say, hey, here's the plan. Let's get a zebra. Did you have to have any conversations with anybody before you did this?
Oh, no, I don't usually have any conversations with anybody, including my wife. I like to surprise her.
I totally called it earlier. I said, This definitely sounds like something that a husband just comes home with. Oh, look, honey, I got a zebra.
Joe, I don't know you personally, but I like you already, man. By the way, I'm divorced twice. Joe McDevitt joining us on the show. So you bring this zebra, you're new to animals, and you thought, hey, go big or go home. You get a zebra. You're not quite used. So how did it get loose exactly?
Well, I built this elaborate fence, suckle rod, the best you can do, and then we added on to it, and we didn't put suckle rod on that side, one corner, and that was a mistake, and he jumped right through it. So,
the one corner.
So are zebras smart?
They're tough. they're he got the heck out of there.
So once you decided once you decided you wanted the zebra, where do you get a zebra? You don't just like call up the zoo or something, right? Where do you get one?
Well, I know some guys that know some guys that know some guys.
Sounds a little sketch, Joe. Let me ask you this. It's too personal a question. You don't have to answer. How much does a zebra cost?
An arm and a leg.
An arm and a leg. So when you realize, how long had you had the zebra before it escaped?
3 months.
All right. And what town was this in?
We're Lake Ozark, Missouri.
Lake Ozark.
Well, it's actually Kaiser, but Lake of the Ozarks.
Now, Joe, you had been documenting trying to find Marty on was it TikTok?
Yeah, Black and White _TV on TikTok.
And had you gotten like a pretty good TikTok following trying to find Marty?
Oh yeah, we're over the 10,000 mark. I think we're at like over 11,000.
Dang.
So that's what we need.
Where you can finally start monetizing it.
Oh yeah.
It's a good marketing move. I think we could do that here. Wake up mid-Missouri, buy an exotic animal, and turn it loose and ask for help finding it. Joe McDevitt lives here in mid-Missouri. Lake Ozark had a zebra, pet zebra, and it got loose.
Joe, we appreciate your time on this. We talked about this, I think, on Wake Up Columbia a couple of weeks ago, and I pointed out it was the lead story on KMIZ, and there was a big controversy. Something was going on with the election, but this missing zebra actually is the lead story on 17. And it actually, if you look it up, it's gotten national press. People all over have picked this story up. How many media outlets have you heard from?
I can't count that high.
And a lot.
There's been a bunch, yeah.
A lot. In the final question, I noticed and KMIZ did a nice job with this, showing, it almost was caught a couple of times. But they point out zebras are legal to own in Missouri if you have approval of the State Department of Agriculture. I was not aware of that. So do you have to get a permit, or how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, we've called everybody, got a hold of the local authorities, and talk to everybody about what we need to do to have it all legal. It's more a donkey than a horse, but it's equine.
So let me ask you this: when you were talking to the wildlife officials, and you're all proper, you're all legal, and when they said, where did you get it from? Did you give them the same thing that you told us? Well, I got a friend who's got this friend who knows this other guy. Did you give? No, seriously. Let me ask you. So the zebra is gone. How I mean, are you out going, here, zebra, 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 here?
Oh, no.
How?
Everybody in the county just called me when they saw it. I mean, everybody knew whose it was.
So how did you finally find it, Joe?
Just as people started calling me, I just kind of marked it on the map, and I kind of saw he did a big circle. He actually came back to my yard, but we were all out searching for him. My wife called and said, he's back in the yard. And then when we got back, he was gone again. And then he just kind of started hanging out with some cows on the 600-acre property next to mine.
Camouflage.
The farmer, he called me and said, hey, man, every time I go and feed my cows, the zebra's right there. So
Now,
so that's where we ended up tranquilizing
Didn't you
him.
end up hitting Marty with a trank dart that didn't work?
Yeah.
Did I read that?
Yeah. So it turns out, like a normal trank dart that would take down like a deer or a horse or something, it's not enough for a zebra because they've been running from lions, for millennia.
It's like when I go to Willett Dental Associates and they give me the conscious sedation. They have to give me a little more because I'm a little bit of a bigger animal. Your reaction when you finally found Marty the zebra?
I was excited, but nothing compared to how excited my daughter was. She was crying that he was gone, and she was pretty excited when he got back.
So you kind of said you were new.
Daughter.
Yeah, that's sweet. We have pets at my house. My kids were really upset when our hamster went missing. But you said you're new to.
Did you just compare your hamster to a zebra?
But wait. So you said
I relate, Joe. We one time lost a hamster.
We did. Kids are sensitive. No, but Joe, you said you were new to the exotic animal business or hobby or whatever. So what exotic animal is on your list for, now that you got the zebra back, what's next on your list for purchasing or finding?
I think we're looking at buffalo. I'm looking specifically for a white buffalo, but and then who knows what the future holds.
Buffalo might be a little easier to catch should they get out.
Yeah.
So
and then of course, Tiger King made it a little difficult to buy a tiger right now, and that might not be a good idea, but who knows.
The Zebra King, Joe McDevitt, joining us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri 93.9 The Eagle. So does the thing, does it make noises or anything?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes horse noises, but it kind of barks, kind of.
Can you imitate it? Give us a sample of what it sounds like.
Couldn't even.
You can't knock a guy for trying to get a dude to impersonate zebras on the radio station. Well, listen, anything else you want to add before we let you go?
Yeah, just check out Black and White on blackandwhite_TV. We're actually releasing a few new products. We're still in roofing, but we're getting into more things like energy drinks, beer, wine, outdoor equipment, and guns too. So
all right, Joe McDevitt lives Lake of the Ozark. He was the one got nationwide attention because his zebra got loose. They have found the zebra. Listen, man, we're appreciative you take time to hang out with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning on 93.9 The Eagle.
Yeah, no problem, man. Don't be a stranger.
All right. Oh, by the way, is the zebra black with white stripes or white with black stripes?
That is the age-old question, and I'm not sure if we'll ever know.
All right. Thank you, man. We appreciate your time. 874-9390, because we're getting different responses, and I don't know which is factual, which is true. So we might run things through the Ministry of Truth. I've had some people tell us via text 874-9390, zebras are white with black stripes. Totally obvious. I don't know if Dusty's being funny or not. And then I've had other people say it depends on the breed of the zebra. I don't know the answer to that. Coming up about 5 minutes from now, Dan wants to make some comments regarding Biden. We'll do that 5 minutes from now. Plus, we are going to be doing the Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. What do you have for us this morning?
A big business celebrating a big birthday.
It's coming up 5 minutes from now.
Wake Up Mid-Missouri with Branden Rathert. It's what happens when you let emotionally unbalanced people play in a room full of microphones. 93.9 The Eagle.
And securing the future from people who will look back first century.
Oh, man, I am sorry. I know that that's Joe. Josh recovered, apparently, from the COVID. They propped him out there yesterday and coughing it up. I hope the dude's okay. Fingers crossed. 874-9390. Do you want to take a quick phone call before we get into the Morning Bell Business News with Stephanie Bell? Dan, welcome into the show. What can we do for you this morning?
Well, I've sat here and I listen to this show religiously, and it seems like we're always on Mr. Biden's butt. He doesn't do this right, doesn't do that right. Now, the problem with this is, whenever I woke up yesterday, I've been wanting to go to see the Eastern European bloc, and it costs so much money, and, my health's not good. But yesterday morning, I woke up and I was already there. You got to stop and think what the man's doing for us. We didn't have to pack our suitcases. We don't have to hassle with the airport. We don't have to do nothing like it. He delivered it right here at home for us.
Dan?
What else could we ask for? But look at it like this. He even let us have an opportunity to pay for it and didn't have to pack our socks. It's only 8.5% this month, but 9.1 last time.
It took me a minute, Dan, but I am seeing the brilliance in your sense of humor. Thank you, Dan, for making us laugh this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle. 8:26, time for the Morning Bell Business News. By the way, we got some great stuff via text. We haven't opened up the mailbag in a while. Let's get cobwebs on it. We might do that coming up here in just a few minutes because we've got another question. I'm pretty sure it's a guy. His name's Eric. Dude's smart. And sometimes I have to, because I'll get upset by some of the things he says. Oh, he's not being a smart ass. He's being really funny. And I think he's kind of like what Dan just did. This is a question that has to do with the viewpoint of the United States of America on a worldwide stage. And I'm like, oh, I get it. I think he's being funny. We'll do that when we get into the listener mailbag. Right now, business news, that little twist only Stephanie Bell can give you.
I think this is really fun. So it is a toy company's 90th birthday. Can you name any toys that have been around for 90?
Hasbro.
No.
All right.
Lego.
Oh.
Today is Lego, and it's not Legos. I've learned that from the TV show. Plural of Lego is Lego. Isn't that weird?
I thought it was Legi.
No. Lego bricks is technically the plural, but today it's their 90th birthday. And if you think about toys, in my mind, you've got like those Chia Pets and like the Tickle Me Elmo and a lot of times they're really trendy and they kind of, they're cool for like 2 years and then they just go away. But Lego has really stood the test of time. They've got, their own Legoland things. And they said if you, that really the function of a Lego hasn't changed and they're universal. So if you bought a Lego today and you found a Lego that, your parents or your grandparents played with years ago, they still fit together. It's not like the iPhone, which every new iteration you have to have a different plug. And so I think that's really, there's something to be said about the classics. And to celebrate their birthday, they have like a new set out that kind of just has like all the, a basic set where you've got all the pieces and you can kind of make your own thing. Because now the sets are really elaborate and parents, you'll be with me on this, really expensive. But you can get kind of the basic 90th birthday starter kit, which I think is fun. Also, fun fact, Lego manufactures more tires than any other company. In 2012, it said that nearly half of its sets included some type of tire.
Which, as a little kid, and I was not very good with Legos. I wasn't a big fan of them. It was fun. I could make a log cabin. That's the only thing I could make was a log cabin.
So you couldn't even build vehicles with Lego?
Couldn't build vehicles, couldn't do anything. But the one vehicle, when I did make vehicles, it was a log cabin with wheels. Because that's all I could do. But I will say this: somebody brought it to Mid-Missouri a couple of years ago. I think it was in Columbia is where they had it, and they also had it on display for a while. I think at the St. Louis Cardinal Hall of Fame at Busch Stadium in St. Louis. But it was this, and it may have been a local guy who did it. But he did a mural of Stan the Man. It did a mural of Stan Musial, I think, with Legos. And I will say, anytime I see like Lego artwork where somebody has created. That is cool. I have no fascination with logos, but when people are that talented to do something, that's great.
Really cool.
Brilliant. Coming up, we still have a lot of things to get to before we get into the Gary Nolan Show at 9 o'clock. I think we're gonna pull away the cobwebs, open up the Wake Up Mid-Missouri listener mailbag. Great stuff off of text and email this morning. If you want to include something in the mailbag, 874-9390, 874-9390, and then right before 9, we'll do leftovers here on the show.
Fox News, I'm Chris Foster. Inflation still high, but it's cooling off, with consumer prices overall the same as last month, according to the Labor Department's Consumer Price Index.
8.5% year over year. That is the headline number. This does mean that we did see likely a peak of inflation in the month of June. We're still sitting at 40-year highs for inflation in this country.
Cheryl Casoni with Fox Business. Some supporters of former President Trump are threatening violence over the FBI raid on his home in Florida.
Authorities are keeping close watch of social media posts, spotting a significant increase in threats aimed at FBI agents, FBI Director Christopher Wray, and Attorney General Merrick Garland. Sources tell Fox News the threats continue at a steady pace online. Justice Department security procedures are not made public.
Fox's Jared Halpern. Trump today is being questioned under oath for New York State's investigation of his businesses. America's listening to Fox News.
Opinions on social issues? We throw those around too. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
Yeah, don't look now, people, but all of a sudden, Sleepy Joe has himself a pretty fat stack of accomplishments. Yeah, in just the past few weeks, he'll have done lower prescription drug prices, the biggest investment in green energy ever, health care for veterans exposed to burn pit, investment in computer chip production, and he kept the leader of Al-Qaeda while he was sunbathing. Think about it. This is insane. You realize what this means? If he keeps this up, his approval rating is going to shoot all the way up to like 39%. And he did all of this with COVID. I bet right now the White House doctors are trying to figure out how to give COVID back to the president again. Come on, guys. If we get him infected, maybe he'll end the war in Ukraine.
Trevor Noah, what Dems are saying about Dems. And I love his approval rating might get up to 39%. Obviously, Trevor Noah, a far left liberal, and again, these national news outlets, they're just like, yeah, you know, it's bad. Here's the thing, and it's not to poke fun, because it's too easy to do. But here's the thing, this really hurts people. When you talk about an approval rating, you have more than 60% of Americans, more than 60% of us. My math ain't much better than my English, but if there's 330 million people, 50% of that is whatever half of 330 million is, 115 million. So then 60%. The majority of this country does not like the job that he's doing. But I think more than that, and it's not just don't like the job that he's doing. The majority of this country is in a bad mood. So I look at it. We're bummed.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about the more localer, the more importanter, and I really, in the past, I've really felt that, right? And I felt like whoever I elected as my president, yeah, I had a preference, but my day-to-day life maybe won't change that much. And that's kind of how I felt when Obama got elected, other than, you know, Obamacare. I mean, he had some bad policies, but for the most part, I felt like I kind of was just living my life. And it's so much. And so I kind of thought, yeah, we're going to have a tough 8 years, but never in my wildest imagination could I have imagined the pain that we would feel in just this short amount of time. And how badly it could go. I mean, we knew, you know, on the international stage, we were going to take a hit, but, you know, could I have even fathomed what happened in Afghanistan? No. Could I have fathomed gas being over $4 for an extended period of time? No. Could I have fathomed how much money the government has spent and how many more dollars my great grandkids are going to be on the hook for? No.
And you think about, you know, again, these real life consequences, the expenses for things, and the image of us that we have on a worldwide stage. Matter of fact, we're going to cover that when we get into the 93.9 The Eagle Wake Up Mid-Missouri morning mailbag that we like to open up from time to time. Good morning. There's Stephanie Bell. Glad to have you back.
I'm glad to be back.
Brian Hausworth, glad you are back too. Good to see you here on the show.
It is good to see you, my friend. Good to see you too, Stephanie, and Hannah too.
And there's Hannah, the producer.
Good morning.
My name is Branden Rathert. Glad you could be here. Our news partner is ABC 17 talking to some, and by the way, this thing we spoke with Judicial Watch. Judicial Watch was on the show. You can go back and check that out and Wake Up Mid-Missouri podcast. Wake Up Mid-Missouri on demand anytime, all the time on our website, 939theeagle.com. There's an organization called Judicial Watch. They have filed a motion to unseal that FBI warrant in that Trump raid. Michael Bekesha with Judicial Watch here earlier this morning, 7 o'clock hour is where you want to find that. And we're hearing from some Missouri politicians regarding what they think. So understand, if you're a newer listener to the show, you're a regretful Biden voter. This is not about picking on Biden. Biden administration saying, we didn't know that this thing was going down on Trump. BS. And I think CNN said it best yesterday, when they said people in America are starting to go, now, wait a minute, this FBI raid on a former president, not just because he was a former president, but they can really come up with any reason to do anything they want. And this is Alice Stewart on CNN.
And on the heels of learning that this administration has virtually doubled the size of the IRS, People are concerned about them. If this can happen to the former president, then it could happen to me.
And that's a real story, man. That's for real. So please understand, this isn't just a partisan, oh, we got to get on the radio and complain about Democrats and progressives. No, we just got to talk about the facts and the real concern for people nationwide.
Well, and I'm glad Judicial Watch is going to try to get to the bottom of what's this really about, because I don't think anyone really thinks that it's about classified documents. And I thought it was interesting yesterday. I guess, most of the Republican politicians came out and said, in Missouri said, what you think they would say. This is terrifying and scary for everybody.
No surprises.
Yeah, but John Wood, who's that independent in the race, he came out apparently and said, the rule of law applies to everyone. No one is above the law. Viciously attacking the FBI and DOJ undermines trust in these public servants. Apparently. So his statement stands in pretty, even though he says he's a conservative, stands in pretty stark contrast. And there were some articles out yesterday, and I heard Megyn Kelly say this. She said this is not about classified documents. It's about January 6th stuff. And if you also in the news yesterday, I guess they confiscated Representative Scott Perry's phone, and he had some allegations against January 6th lodged against him. So I'm not surprised by the statement from John Wood, because if you recall, he's the January 6th guy. So if it all does come out and it is about January 6th, then he can't really say, oh, this is a witch hunt or improper, because he's the January 6th guy. So I'm not yet getting to conspiracy theories, but the more I learn, the more I think, I absolutely think that it has nothing to do with the classified documents. It's about something else. But the speculation on January 6th, I'm starting to think that people might be right.
And that solidified my opinion on John F. Wood, who actually, he was here just a couple of weeks ago. Give almost everybody a fair shake. And so he came on the show, and we had a nice conversation. Don't agree about a lot of the stuff, and that kind of that he would say that somebody who's trying to portray themselves as a conservative, independent, and saying, well, I think he's a much book smarter dude than I am. He's gone to more college than I have, but yeah, that doesn't do any. That solidifies the no vote there coming up in November.
Solidifying the no vote is, we haven't gone through the Gen Z playlist of the vocabulary yet, but I think Hannah would agree with me that they use you catch the ick is a thing that people say now in dating. And you caught the ick when John Wood said he was excited to watch the J6 hearings. And he was waiting with bated breath to watch the hearings. And I think at that point you had caught the ick, and it was a no for you.
And if you want to be open-minded about the dude and listen to his conversation that he had with us here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri, you go to 939theeagle.com and search podcast Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Letters.
All right, let's open up the mailbag.
I get letters.
We don't get any letters.
So many letters.
Texts.
A whole bunch of letters.
Even got an email today, actually.
I'd even read mail from a cow.
874-9390. 874-9390. B. Rathert at mailzimmer.com. Can we send you emails if we want to, Steph?
Can you send what?
Emails to you.
Yeah.
sbell at mailzimmer.com.
Adkisson at mailzimmer.com.
And you can hit us up on the Twitters and the TikToks and all that good stuff. 874-9390. 874-9390. I love we had a caller, Dan, about 20 minutes ago, and I didn't know where he was going because to navigate his sense of humor takes a minute, kind of worth it.
Were you nervous for a second?
I was, to be honest. Did I look
see
nervous?
It on your face. You're like, uh-oh.
Well, here's the funny thing. Dan called in and he started saying, you guys talk about Biden every morning. And first thing I wanted to say, well, that's not really true. We don't make our living on that. Yeah, we do sometimes, but no, we do not. Absolutely do not do that every morning. It's the last thing I want to do. I always say when I do this, I'm not going to do, and I get it, Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck and all those people, they make a lot of money complaining about the president every single day. And I always vowed I would never do that, and I don't do it. We don't do it. There's other things to talk about besides railing on the president. So I was starting to go, hold up, sir, you don't know what you're talking about. But then I had to listen. And
he had you going.
He did. I was kind of like, all right, where's this guy going? But he made this point that, hey, we're kind of in almost a socialistic kind of Soviet Union now with what it is that people like Joe Biden and his mindset are trying to do. You got anything for the mailbag?
Mark on Facebook is telling us that zebras are black with white stripes, and it starts with their black noses. And then he did note that it varies by breed because some zebras are actually not black and white, they're brown and white.
All right. You may have heard this story. Hannah has covered this a couple of times in What's Hot with Hannah. It's something we do every morning, 7:25-ish. Just things people are talking about. Stories even gotten some national traction on this dude. I don't know, the Lake of the Ozarks area had a zebra.
He did.
And then he didn't.
Had the zebra for, he said, about 3 months, and then Marty, the zebra, escaped his enclosure and was on the run for a good week and a half, 2 weeks almost. And even, got tranked with a tranquilizer dart, and it didn't faze him, and he scurried off and evaded capture for a very long time.
And they found him. And we had the guy on the show this morning, kind of an interesting chat. And he says the next thing he wants to buy is buffalo. And I wanted to say, because he was kind enough to join us. I'm like, yeah, because you've done so well with the zebra, huh? You're going to buy some buffalo. Ralph, 874-9390, says, I owned buffalo for years. If that guy thinks a zebra is hard to keep fenced, he'll be really surprised at what buffalo can get out of.
Which kind of surprises me because buffalo are so big. You think that they would be slower and maybe easier to catch, but I never would have guessed that they would be escape artists.
And somebody else says there's a place up in, and I remember this, I'm glad somebody brought it up, in Moberly. And I don't know exactly what the history is, but there's in Moberly these folks that have kind of a not a wildlife preserve, but they have some of those exotic animals and stuff right here in mid-Missouri.
And it was there used to be an auction up there. You could go there to buy your, they used to have a lot of, emu and ostriches, I think.
And then back to the theme of listener Dan, off the text from listener Eric. One of the things Stephanie and I have been big on, as a matter of fact, even prior to Joe becoming president, we had this conversation, me and Hannah and Stephanie. We were talking about if Joe became president, what's realistically going to happen. And one of the things, I think at the very least, Stephanie and I are big, we will lose our image on a worldwide stage. And that is a bad thing for you, only if you're an American. If you're an American, then it's bad. So listener Eric says, what evidence leads you to the conclusion that the U.S. has lost its standing on the worldwide stage? And I'm like, and then I get it. The guy, he's got to be being funny, right? Because it's too obvious. Afghanistan, we've got NATO on record saying the sloppy pullout in Afghanistan directly, and I know you get tired of hearing me talking about it, but my hope is that we catch another new listener. So when they're at happy hour today or when they're at work and somebody says, well, gas prices are Joe's fault, you say, well, we have NATO on record saying the reason Russia invaded Ukraine, because of Joe's sloppy pullout in Afghanistan, where he killed some of our troops and where he even a fellow Missourian killed a fellow mid-Missourian right down I-70 in Wentzville. Mexico ain't doing nothing. You look at the number of records being set. Mexico is doing nothing to help us with the influx of people coming into the country illegally. China is, what's another cool word? Flexing? China is flexing more. These are all things that, as a point of fact, have been happening since the tragic events of January the 20th, 2021. So, Eric, I got upset for a second. I'm like, I get it. He's being funny.
Well, yeah, in other countries, they just have no problem challenging us. Joe had that big, what was it, a Latin America meeting of the minds or whatever, and he disinvited some people, and then other people are like, well, you're going to not invite them? Well, then we're not going to show up either. And we just kind of went along with it. And then when Pelosi was going to visit Taiwan, the White House really wouldn't back her up. And China was saying, hey, this is a bad idea. Yeah. And the White House got real nervous, and we looked just terrible.
Yep, and so I get it. Eric has a good sense of humor in even asking that question. Coming up, maybe some leftovers. We'll do that before.
putting the fun in dysfunctional. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri on 93.9 The Eagle.
Want to welcome into the show Dr. Nathan Haseman. He is with Missouri Eye Consultants. First thing I want to mention, over the years we've talked with our friends at Columbia Eye Consultants. Same cool folks, different name. Missouri Eye Consultants. Dr. Nathan Haseman, why the change?
Well, thanks for having me on. One of the big reasons for the change is that Columbia Eye Consultants has now had a more regional presence in central Missouri, so we thought it was a good idea to change our name to Missouri Eye Consultants.
We've got something in common.
Yeah, so we used to be Wake Up Columbia, and now we're Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Okay.
Fist bump.
Yeah, there you go. I wonder who gave us that great idea to change.
All right. And then how do we, so it's Missouri Eye Consultants, bunch of things under the umbrella of eyes, surgeries, optometry, things like that. But what is the best way for people to find you?
Well, our phone number, our contact information hasn't changed much, but everyone now uses the internet. It's moeyes.com or Missouri Eye Consultants.
moeyes.com. And I'm wondering, because I'm sitting here and I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different electronic monitors right now. And I've been asked before by a friend of yours, Dr. Jeff Gamble. He says, well, do you spend a lot of your time on the computer? I'm like, no, I'm on air. I work all day. I'm looking at 8 different electronic monitors right now. I'm not the only one. That's something we need to really think about.
Yeah, that's right. We talk about like electronic device eye strain and problems seeing up close that affect basically all of us. We call that presbyopia. And presbyopia solutions, or that ability to see things at different distances, is kind of a hot topic right now in eye care with new eye drops coming out. And like when you have cataract surgery now, we have presbyopia correcting lenses to help you see both far and near. And that's sort of where the next horizon in eye care may lie, is trying to cure those things.
So if you're watching on our YouTube channel or on our Facebook channel, you see I've got the readers, and I get annoyed on the occasion. I get quit agreeing, Hannah. I get annoyed on the occasions when I can go back and watch our YouTube channel. The number of times I flip, if we were playing the shot game, do a shot for every time Rathert flips his glasses off and on, people would be hammered drunk. So there's some technologies that can maybe one day I can get rid of this stuff, short of the big, all that stuff.
Yeah, that's the hope. Currently we use contacts, and obviously bifocals are the most common way that people correct nearsightedness or presbyopia, but we can use contact lenses. Sometimes we do treatments such as monovision, where we use one eye for near, one eye for distance. And then there are surgical solutions when people get cataracts. Cataract surgery is basically lens replacement surgery.
But mostly we at least want to start with a checkup, see where we are, because we go to our family physician, we go to other doctors. Your eyes are going to be with you for the rest of your life. Missouri Eye Consultants, Dr. Nathan Haseman, moeyes.com. Thank you so much for coming in. Congratulations on your recent successes in Inside Columbia Magazine.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Very cool. Gary Nolan Show is next. See ya.
Bye.